Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of the Master Grade Strike E plus IWSP Lucas O'Donnell version from the Gundam Seed Famous Race manga series. And first things first, this kit is a remold of the 2007 Strike Noir and the 2006 Strike IWSP, who are both remolds of the 2003 Ale Strike Gundam. So some parts of this kit are actually surprisingly old. But believe me, if I hadn't told you that, you probably wouldn't have even noticed it. On the outside, it's all sleek 2007 2.0 technology, with only a few molding lines here and there, and almost no seam lines to be found at all. And the few that are there are not really going to be noticeable once you have this thing all geared up. Then when it comes to the proportions and the detailing, they completely nailed it. They perfectly replicated the sleekness of the Strike E's design and gave it enough detailing to give it that master grade feel while still staying true to the line art. Just having it stand there is enough to give off a badass vibe, even without the IWSP. And I also feel that the colors help with this. Even though it's the traditional Gundam color scheme, the white is more subdued, the blue is a bit darker, the yellow is a bit more orangey, and the red just gives a nice contrast to the whole thing. So even the colors help at giving this thing a more serious feel. But the one thing that really blew me away was the color accuracy straight out of the box. For stickers, we just get the usual eye stickers and main camera sticker, both of which have a clear piece behind it, and the usual rear camera sticker. Then we get 4 more light blue ones for the sensors of the shorty beam rifles, 2 blue ones on the wingtips of the IWSP, 4 blue ones for the vent on the shield, and 1 metallic green sticker for each of the dual beam rifles that goes behind a clear piece. For painting then, the Strike E itself is actually perfect. The manual tells you that this part should be painted gray, but actually it's just white on both the box art and the line art. The IWSP, on the other hand, will require a bit more work. These little sensors have to be painted red, the inner walls of these intakes have to be painted blue, and good luck painting those jet engines gray. This is just one solid piece. But the good news is that this is by far the worst problem of the kit. So even without a lick of paint, we're getting an extremely awesome looking Strike E that'll only be more amazing once we apply the peel off marking stickers and the rub transfer decals. With these, we can choose to either turn it into Lucas O'Donnell's unit or apply the Phantom Pain decals and turn it into Sven Kalbayang's unit. Then under the hood, we get an almost complete vintage 2003 inner frame, which sounds way worse on paper than it actually is. The Strike Gundam had a really good inner frame for the time, and it still holds up surprisingly well today. The only changes are new lower legs, shoulders, lower arms with an extra wrist joint, and the collar, although I must admit that I accidentally used the old collar for the pictures of the inner frame. And honestly, the only issues, looking at it from a modern perspective, is that the hips use ball joints rather than pegs, and there's only a single joint in the waist. Then another thing that shows you that this is an older inner frame is the use of 2 screws for the shoulders. So let's cover up this nicely detailed inner frame again and have a look at all of the accessories that this thing comes with. Starting off with the weapons that are already on the machine. On the head, we get 2 Toda Shrekken 12.5mm Seawiz guns, and yes, these are actually molded in gray. Then on the hips, we get 2 shorty beam rifles, although I feel that pistol would be a more accurate name for them. And all you have to do is simply slide the sensor to the back and your Strike E is ready to use it. And in addition to the old school articulated master grade hands, we also get these 2 fixed trigger finger hands, and believe me, they do an absolutely amazing job of not just holding onto the shorty beam rifles, but also onto all of the other beam rifles included with this model kit. So whether you like articulated hands or fixed hands, this kit has you covered. Also, don't forget to paint this sensor blue. Then moving on to the other handheld weapons, starting off with its own trademark beam rifle. This thing is essentially 2 halves slapped together with a movable handle. And even though this was made for the articulated master grade hands, it fits significantly better into the fixed holding hands. Although you will still need the articulated left hand to hold on to the handle. Next up, we get not just one dual beam rifle, but two of them. Just like the Strike's beam rifle, these are essentially two halves slapped together, and they feature a removable torpedo. And unlike the Strike's own beam rifle, these actually fit into the articulated hands pretty well. And again, they fit absolutely perfectly into the fixed hands. But in addition to all that firepower, we also need a few melee weapons. Introducing the Grand Slam. Now, unfortunately, the blade is just molded in white and not in gray or metallic, but it still is a really nice looking thing. And for some reason, this here is adjustable with a nice clicky feel to it and also sound to it. And then to deploy it, it again clicks open. So when does this open? This is really sturdy. It's not going to fall down. And it also doesn't feel like it's going to wear down anytime soon. To use it, it fits pretty well into the articulated hands. But again, the Strike E gives us options. We have these two fixed holding hands, which fit absolutely perfectly onto the Grand Slam, allowing you to make some really secure poses with this thing. And then if you want to do a little bit of everything, we get the quite fittingly named Combined Shield. This thing literally does a bit of everything. For ranged combat, we have a Gatling gun, which will turn around, which is probably going to be really cool for people who want to make stop motion animations. Then for defensive purposes, it's a shield, which will attach to the arm with this rotating thingy and this handle that he can hold on to. And then for melee combat, we get a beam boomerang, which of course comes with its own pink beam effect part. One thing I will warn you about is that using the fixed holding hand with the beam boomerang can sometimes be a bit flimsy. Then to attach the combined shield to the Strike E, you first have to remove this piece, and then the way I prefer to do it is to first have him hold onto the handle and then peg it into the arm. And then the only problem remaining is how are you gonna pose him with it, because there's just so many possibilities. And then there is, of course, one giant accessory left. The IWSP Striker Pack itself. This thing is massive, it looks amazing, and it still has quite a bit of articulation going for it. The cannons are on a peg, will go up and down and also rotate in and out a little bit. Then the wings will also go up and down a little bit. These wings will also go in and out. Then the swords here are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. And then in the back, one really cool thing is that these thruster flaps will actually open up a little bit and close down a little bit. And then the last moving piece is that these thrusters will also move up and down. Attaching it to the Strike E is just as simple as every other Striker pack. You simply slide it on there. You just got to be a bit careful not to destroy the V-fin, and there you go. You have the Strike E IWSP in full glory. And believe it or not, this thing is actually surprisingly stable, especially if you have that giant Gatling shield attached to it. And this thing significantly increases the Strike E's arsenal. Not only do we get the 115mm railguns on the top, we also get 105mm cannons on the front, and we also get 9.1 meter anti-ship swords, which fit nicely into the Strike's articulated hands, but will not go into the fixed hands without modification. But wait, there's more. There's always more with the Strike E. We also get two rocket anchors that'll shoot out from either the feet or the two included open palm hands. And the one really cool thing about these rocket anchors is because they're such small things, it's very easy to pose them and the wire will not fall down because of gravity. All you have to do is to simply put them into the part where you want them shooting out from and pose away. And with all of those cool accessories, with so many posing possibilities, Wouldn't it be awesome if we got an action base? Well, we kinda did. It's even a kinda adjustable one. You can simply adjust it like that to have him in a bit more of an actiony pose, but I am going to warn you before you use this. You see, you have to attach it to the back skirt, and that thing was only designed to hold itself onto the strike, not to hold the entire strike up. So if you want to use this action base, consider gluing the back skirt first. And whatever you do, don't actually use the forward-leaning position unless you anchor it down. So if you want to be super secure, either get a Master Grade compatible action base or use the amazing diorama action base that you get with the old Ale Strike. You can even attach the energy cable to the back skirt. And then the final real accessory that we're getting is a small standing pilot figure of Lukas O'Donnell, or Sven Kolbjorn if you turn it into Sven Kolbjorn's unit. But of course, because this is a remold, we also get a few unusable parts. We get some bottom of the feet from the normal strike. We get these parts for the strike's shield. And we get the old collar, which I initially used like an idiot. And because the Strike E is a Striker Pack compatible mobile suit, we of course also have to have a look at some of the other Striker Packs and see how compatible they are. First up is the old Ale Striker Pack, which is a 100% perfect fit. Unlike the new Ale Striker Pack, which technically goes on there, but as you can see, it's not quite a perfect fit because of the different color of the Strike E. Then the launcher strike fits basically as you would expect. The backpack with the Agni, no problem, makes for some really cool poses, but the shoulder equipment doesn't go onto these new shoulders. And the same thing goes for the Sword Striker pack. The backpack, the shield, the sword, no problem whatsoever, but the shoulder armor doesn't go on there. Next up is the Noir Striker, which is obviously 100% compatible. And then finally, if you want to have some more bling on your Strike E, you can also hook them up with the Shiranui pack and the Owashi pack. And if you want to see how some other Striker Pack compatible mobile suits look with the IWSP pack, you can head over to my Instagram. And with all of his Striker Packs and accessories out of the way, let's have a look at the articulation of this thing. Because remember, this is mostly a 2003 inner frame. The head is on a ball joint and hinge combo, so it goes up nicely, down nicely, rotates around all the way, and of course has some forwards and backwards movement. The shoulders then are really nicely articulated, will rotate around all the way, go upwards really nicely on that joint, and the arms will also go up really nicely for that last shooting pose action. They'll also go really nicely forward and also a little bit backwards. And should you want to, this thing can also go up all the way like that, even though there's completely no reason to do that. Another thing where there's no real reason to do it is this can slide down to reveal some of the inner detail there. Then the arm will rotate around all the way, bend at the elbow on two joints. Then the hands are on the usual ball joints, will rotate around, turn around, do everything a ball joint does. And like I said, we get that extra wrist joint for the Strike E. Then the waist is on a single ball joint, so we do get some side-to-side movement, forwards and backwards movement, and will of course also rotate around about that far. Then, as I said before, the legs are on ball joints, so they'll go forwards nicely like that. Backwards also quite far with the help of the back skirt, but then both rotation and outward movement is limited due to that ball joint. The knees are nicely double jointed, and we also get some really cool armor separation there and on the knee itself. The ankle guards will go up and down, and then the feet themselves are on the usual hinge and ball joint combo. They go nicely forwards, backwards, we'll go a bit side to side, we'll rotate around, and then we also get an upwards toe joint. And then the final piece of articulation that we can't forget about is the opening cockpit, revealing a nicely detailed tiny pilot inside. So like I said before, do not let that 2003 inner frame deceive you. even after almost 2 decades, it still holds up surprisingly well today, and it gives you more than enough freedom to pull off some really cool and dynamic poses. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And for 4,500 yen, this is an extremely good value. This kit does literally everything right. It's an awesome model kit of an awesome mobile suit that comes with all the accessories it needs and more. Then throw in all the marking stickers and even an action base, and we've got a master grade that I can recommend to absolutely everyone. The only reason not to buy this is if you'd want to go for the Strike Noir instead, but then you are missing out on that amazing Gatling shield. Seriously though, getting either one of these for yourself or someone else is something that you simply cannot go wrong with. The few minor issues that there are easily overshadowed by the sheer awesomeness of everything else. So now let's put it next to some other machines. First up, here it is next to the old Ailstrike Gundam and the new Ailstrike Gundam. And like I said before, the Strike E is a perfect mix of staying true to the line art while still adding that master grade detail. Next up, here he is next to some contemporary no grades, the Buster Gundam and Heine's Blaze Zaku Phantom. And because people keep asking for it on my master grade videos, here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. Which doesn't translate all that well because of the scale difference. I really need Bandai to help me out here and release either a master grade or an RE100 Zaku 3. Anyways, that's all for this review of this absolutely amazing mobile suit and model kit. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope all of you watching have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.